Okay, all right. So it is my great pleasure to introduce the moderator of our next panel, who is an old friend. Look, he's old. He and I go back, to the year 2000, right? Certainly. That's old. And we've worked together on a lot of different issues in lots of different countries. Will Gardner is the CEO of ChildNet International, a children's charity working with others to help make the internet a great and safe place for children. Will was awarded an OBE in the 2018 Queen's New Year Honors List. That's an officer of the British Empire? Yeah, it's a pretty fancy title anyway. For his work in the field of children's online safety. Please take it away, Will.
Thanks very much, Stephen. Hi, everybody. It's great to have this panel. Obviously, it is very bright up here, but I can see there's still lots of people back there. But this panel, we're talking about, are we preparing kids for digital adulthood? And obviously, it's intimidating talking to all of you, but we've got 8 young people right here at the front, which does make quite an intimidatory audience where we're going to try not just to talk about you, we want to try and include you in the conversation that we're having. I've got a great panel here, and they're going to... Why don't we start off by doing some introductions? Cecilia, would you like to introduce yourself and go down the front?
Hi, everybody. My name is Cecilia Nietling. I'm the principal of International School Hilversum. We're sort of medium-sized international school in the center of the country. It's about half an hour from here. I just want to have a disclaimer, because I was listening to you guys backstage, and I was listening, and I was hearing your beautiful answers, and then I thought, oh, I better tell the audience, I did not tell them what to say. I promise. It was all by themselves, and I also didn't pick them. They decided to come here today all by themselves. So I think that's important to know as well. Thanks.
Rivka.
My name is Rivka Otten, and I'm a project manager at Off Limits, and specifically at the helpline Help Wanted. And we provide a first aid kit for everyone who's had a bad experience online.
Tim.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Stock. I'm the Director of Public Affairs at Tencent, covering Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Thank you for having me today. And Tencent is a large technology and entertainment company known for making connections worldwide. Video games, WeChat, cloud business, and then many other things. So, looking forward to our panel today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jo McKeegan. I'm corporate counsel at Amazon, based out of London. I'm on the content policy legal team, and we work on issues related to content and policy across Amazon services. Before I joined Amazon, I've been in this space now for over 10 years. I was an assistant district attorney in my home state of New York, and I've also represented victims of NCII and was at Snapchat for a while as well. Nice to meet y'all.
Thanks very much, everybody. There's been a lot of different issues discussed today, and we'll probably pick up on some of those in the conversations that we have, including around bans and about youth voice. We've heard a lot about youth participation, and so we'll certainly be talking about that. But we've just come straight out of the Watching Adolescence session, and I just thought I would share, I didn't hear the tail end of the conversation, Stephen, that you had, but in the UK, the show was brought up in Prime Minister's questions. So in Parliament, the Prime Minister was asking questions relating to this as a topic, and he has made it so that all secondary schools can now access, from the 1st of April, all 4 episodes of this series, and an NGO has been working to develop lesson plans and guidance to go along with it, and that's something which is available for secondary schools. He had said he had watched it with his teenage children, much like some of you had watched it with your parents, and he felt that that was an important thing to do. And I was just interested by that as a concept, and I thought I might just ask the panelists what you think about that kind of educational potential of this resource, and you can think it's a good idea or a bad idea, of course, and I will come to the young people in a moment too. Cecilia, what about you?
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think that it's happening, at least in my school, naturally already. I do know that there's a particular mentor. I'm not sure one of you guys have done it with Mr. Bates, but have watched, yes, you've watched adolescents with Mr. Bates in class, and that just happened naturally, and there was some discussion in class as well. So we're open for it, and we can see the benefits of it. Whether I would sort of be inclined to say all of them have to watch it, because a lot of students are watching it at home already and having discussions with their parents. It's definitely a big point of discussion in the school.
I wonder for Rivka, whether in terms of the helpline perspective, you saw any kind of impact of that, or whether you kind of see the benefits of the show from...
I can definitely see the benefits of the show because it sparks conversation, and I think that is super important. In terms of what we saw at the helpline, I don't think it had an immediate effect, but maybe over time it will sort of have a simmering effect where parents are a little bit more aware of what their children are doing online. And I think that's the most important thing that you should take away from this show, is that kids are doing stuff online that you have no idea about. And oh, if I may add some, so sorry, Tim. Coming back to your question on if it's a good idea to show this in schools, I think it's a great idea. Do you also know if there are any plans to involve parents in this as well? Because I think it's maybe more important for parents to see this show.
Certainly, we did hear that feedback from some young people saying that really think it's our parents who should be watching this. Yeah. But I mean, in the bag today, I would give a plug for FOSI. There's a little discussion guide for parents in relation to the show.
Yeah, so I was just going to comment, and I think it's a good idea to 50%. Right, it's a good idea to watch it, definitely, that kids, teenagers watch it. But I was particularly happy to hear that in the front row you watch it with your parents. Right? And I think that is even a more powerful way of making sure that to get that conversation starting. To understand what all those emojis mean, and then it becomes a thing where you can really relate to. I think if I've got 3 young kids, not at this age yet, and we watch Jeugdjournaal together, which is a Dutch show. For those of you who don't know, it's a news show that has all the current affairs for the 9 to 12-year-olds. It's aired between 7 and 7:20, so it's ideal right before bedtime. Sit down. It's a nice family bonding experience. And that's how we discuss all these current affairs. The downside has been that my 5-year-old now has a particularly strong opinion of the US president, but put that aside. But I think it's a great idea. Just watch together.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. About a year ago, Prime Video made a series called Nudes. It's a French language scripted series about non-consensual intimate image sharing. And as part of that, we had the opportunity to show it in schools in France and in Belgium. And the feedback that we got was that it was a really, really good tool to start conversations. And I think when I think about the online safety conversation, one thing that's very important to me is making sure that we are providing information for a variety of different ways so that people are able to access it who might not be like traditional book learners, right? So not everybody is going to excel in school by reading a book. Not everybody's going to excel in school by listening to a lecture. Sometimes people respond a lot better to multimedia. And those students who learn in an alternative way, their voice is just as important to the conversation. And if we can reach them and bring people into the conversation who might not necessarily be included by more like traditional school learning means, I think that's a really valuable contribution, and we should do that as long as it's done in a way that is appropriate, age appropriate, and has the proper conversation around it so that kids can understand like what is sensationalized for a program and what is rooted in fact and what is the basis of the conversation.
Some of the conversations that will obviously come out of the program are very sensitive, and you'd want to make sure you're in the right setting to have that. I'd like to ask some of the young people about what do you think? Do you think that's a good idea to share that? We've got 2 hands straight away over here. Is there a way to get do you need a microphone? Just wait 1 second. Perfect, thank you.
So in school we have such a class, a lesson such as mental armor, and there we talk a lot about such things like sexual education, this kind of stuff. And under sexual education, there's also falling to safety online. So I really think that in school we should start talking about it, but the final discussions should be guided with our parents, and such films should be watched with our parents, just because it's more, you can be open to discussion rather than talking to your classmates. I think I'm not going to be that open with my classmates rather than my parents.
Yeah, I have a bit of a different opinion. I do think that this, like the adolescence, is a bit too extreme, maybe because of the portrayal of the school and the students in the school, because we can see that the school is bad, the students are bad. And I think it is a bit too extreme because I've never met like this in real life. And so it might be a bit unrealistic, but I do believe that every teen should watch like adolescents, like rather in school or at home, even if it is extreme, just to bring them clear and better understanding of the consequences of the cyberbullying and bullying overall.
You can't see it, but hands are shooting out the front here. I think we'll take two more, and then we'll move on. Yeah.
Yes, I'm saying that before this school, I was at a school in Romania, for example, and it wasn't really extreme. This adolescence is really happened. The students are disrespectful with the teachers, and a school that is not like banning phones, for example, the kids are always on their phones, and making fun of each other, posting a picture of them humiliating, making group chats and talking. So I think it should be really a good idea to watch it with the parents as well, because it's something that is happening in real life and it's around us. So the parents should know what we do on our phones and what is actually happening, because we're not like in a bubble where everything is perfect and everything. So yeah.
Very good, thank you. And the last one.
I just think it should spark the conversation in school, and then, but for the rest, you should watch it with we should watch it with our parents. Yeah, and for the, what else did you say? Yeah, I think we should have the conversation with our parents, but I don't think it's that extreme, because I think it might happen in different countries. For example, in the UK, I honestly think it's a very realistic. Well, not for every school, of course, but depending on where you are. And then, yeah.
It's funny you say that, because I was at a meeting quite soon after it was aired with some teachers from teaching unions who didn't like the series and the way it portrayed schools and the teaching profession and so on. But then there were some young people who really closely, yeah, that's exactly like my school. And they get two different conceptions of what that was. During the session, Are We Preparing Kids for Digital Adulthood? We're going to touch upon, well, what are the issues that we need to be dealing with? What are we doing? And what do we think works? That's kind of the broad outline of what we're going to do. And Cecilia, I want to start with you. Like, you're looking after a large number of young people in a school. In relation to this, the kind of approach that you're taking, the issues that you're dealing with, can you share a bit more from your perspective?
Yeah, sure. I think something that's been mentioned quite a bit today is the issue of banning. Everybody who today voiced opinions saying we shouldn't be banning things, thank you very much. Because I've been getting very, very pointed looks from my students. Because we do, at my school, ban mobile phones. In fact, there's been legislation in the Netherlands about that for some time, not that long, but even before the legislation, we decided to ban them. Students are allowed to bring phones to school, but then technically, the phone is supposed to be switched off and going into the locker, which is complex because all of the students also have a MacBook, which they carry around with them at school. So on the one hand, my school has, you can call it a love affair with technology. We've got some of the best technology available. And on the other hand, we do this strange thing where we ban the phones. What we have seen, and I think one of the students mentioned it, is that it has changed what we see happening in break times and lunch times in terms of social interactions and engagement and, for example, students filming each other and those sorts of things. So we've seen some positive effects. Is it perfect and foolproof? No, it's not. but students, unfortunately, I have not yet changed my mind. Yeah, it's complex.
It's complex. Okay, and maybe we've got some of the young people here who experienced the school before the ban took place and after. There might be an interesting perspective to hear that. But in terms of other aspects, in terms of curriculum involving parents, is there any more that you would share?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for us, because of the fact that our students have a device, the MacBook, that they also take home, they get all their homework posted online, they submit most of their work in a digital space. Yeah, this is a big part of their life. And often we have parents who are saying to us, look, what are you doing to us? Because, you know, kids are going home and they're taking the device home. And then they are saying, well, we have to be online tonight because we have to do our homework. So I think it's only recently that we started to realize that parents need help in this space. Yeah, we are not the experts. We need help too, but in some ways we can sort of help each other. So we've had some parent information evenings where we've discussed things like addictive behaviors. And what's interesting about that discussion to mention is that where previously, I'd say 5 years ago, if we would have a parent information evening about addiction and addictive behaviors, the whole evening was about, let's say, drugs and alcohol, smoking, these days vaping. So we had an expert in to talk to parents about addictive behaviors. And she was going to talk about addictive behaviors, including all of those things. And not a single parent were interested in any of those things. All they wanted to know was addictive behaviors online. So the rest, yeah, it's not out of fashion, but it's not the main point of concern for parents parenting at the moment, certainly not in my school.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, can I jump in here? Because
yeah,
I think what Celia's just said about parents need help and helping each other out, I think that's really fundamental in making sure that we ensure that kids, everyone basically, but especially kids, have an enjoyable time online and a safe, secure place where they can enjoy all the benefits of everything online. Not everything, but most things online. And if you know, it was said in a previous panel that some of the parental controls, and if I look from the perspective of video game companies, we apply a lot of them. I think they have been pretty effective, it's making sure that those parental controls, whether it's limiting time spent or whether it's limiting actual spend, actually comes to the people that need to implement it, right? And then all the consoles, the Nintendo, PlayStation, they all have very easy to use systems that allow parents to monitor or control more the gameplay of their children. And there's also campaigns that national associations, like in the Netherlands, Rule the Game it does, to point parents to, all right, start to play with them, start to immerse yourself with the game, then, you know, determine what are the limits, what are the rules that we both agree on, and fundamentally it also comes down to spending time playing with your kid. And that's, again, coming back to that point, if you do it together, both sides will learn.
I do think, if I'm allowed, we ask a lot of our parents. We ask a lot of our parents. I've been listening to all the industry experts talking today so eloquently about everything that they've put in place. But wow, I'm sure you guys have kids as well. And, you know, if I listen to my parents, and I represent a sort of, let's say, socio-economic segment of sort of, yeah, highly educated families and parents, but it's a big ask to be a parent these days.
Absolutely. I'm sitting here as a representative of Tencent, as the industry of the games, but also as a parent. And yes, you know, there are many times where I struggle to cope with all those things. And that's why those tools, parental control tools or whatever other tools, they need to be as easy usable and accessible for those parents. So it shouldn't be very difficult to use them in an ideal world. And I guess there's maybe where we need to improve things.
Yeah, and I think it also shows that there is a clear gap between what the industry is doing and if it's reaching parents, actually. Maybe we need to do some extra work there, because there is a clear ask from parents, to be able to control what their kids are doing and seeing, but not policing them. I think that's very important. But there is still a gap to bridge, and I think that today we've really seen that that's still work for us to do.
Rivka, can I come to you in terms of the helpline? Because you have a helpline that serves children and young people and parents and carers, yes? Can you share a bit more about the types of issues that your helpline has been contacted with in relation to online?
Well, everything's online. We're a helpline specifically for online issues. On a yearly basis, we receive about 12,500 people asking for help. That's maybe a lot for some people, maybe it's not a lot for some people, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's only people who are able to find us and who dare to ask for help. And about 50%, I'd say roughly 50% of those people ask help specifically on the issue of sextortion. So that's a huge issue we're seeing at our helpline. Other issues we're seeing is the non-consensual sharing of intimate images, nudes that are being shared without consent. So it's mostly about sexual issues still. But we're also seeing an increase in other issues like doxing, for example, is a big one that's quite on the rise. And what else are we seeing? Cyberbullying, of course, big one, especially under young people asking for help. So yeah, lots of issues.
Is there a distinction between what the parents are contacting you and what the children is contacting you about? Or is it just the same?
It's the same. It's the same across all ages.
Yeah.
So we're also a helpline for all ages.
Yeah.
And we don't really see that big of a distinction between what people are asking help about. Maybe in the sort of older age group, it's more about settings and fraud. But in general, the issues that people are asking help about are quite similar.
Jo, can I come to you? I mean, Amazon has a lot of different products and services, and how safety manifests itself will be different in kind of from a user perspective across all of that. How do you apply a principle that can go centrally right across the whole offer?
Yeah, so what I'd like to start off by saying is it's really, really hard work, right? I don't think that, and I'm not just saying that because it's what I do. It is difficult work, and I think we've heard that echoed from everybody here today, because ultimately you want to find the right balance between any sort of mitigations that are too much and finding something which is just enough, but also finding something which is robust enough that it serves as a really strong parental control, but also isn't so difficult that parents are challenged to implement it. And I think ultimately, one of the things that's at the core of this is really taking a good hard look at the service. Take a look at the functionalities, take a look at the features, take a look at how it's being used, take a look at how a bad actor might use it. Get creative, really think about how could somebody use this, and then develop mitigations that are really sort of proportionate and tailored to those exact risks. So what you're building is addressing the thing that you want it to address, and isn't just something which is sort of non-responsive to the issue. So one thing that we have that I really like talking about are these things. This is an Amazon Kids tablet. My notes are on this today. That's why it's up here with me. But this is a tablet which is really designed to, I think, find that sort of sweet spot between how can we have really strong parental controls, but make it something that's easy for parents to use, right? So we need to have something which is really, really robust, really strong, and provides parents with the transparency they want into their children's behavior so that they can have conversations, but is not super difficult. So I think I'm the odd one out, potentially in the room today. I don't have kids. This is the first kids device that I've ever set up in my life was when I got this thing. And even though it was the first one I had ever seen, it still took me less than 5 minutes, which to me is the amount of time that it should. So when you start it, you get prompted to download something called the Parent Dashboard, which is an app on your phone. And what I really like about this is it allows you as the parent on your phone to set the controls for the tablet. So what that means is if you forget to change them when you leave for work during the day and you realize while you're in your office, oh gosh, what have I done? You can pull up the app on your phone and fix it so it changes the thing on the tablet. So, you know, if the kids are grandparents for the weekend or whatnot, you can continue to update things. But it's designed in a way that it's really easy to implement things that we've heard talked about today, like time limits, but also getting really, really granular depending on how much time you want to invest in it for things like time limits. So for example, maybe I only want time limits where there's no use of the tablet during the week, but during the weekend you can use it for 3 hours. Or maybe I want to get more granular than that and say you can use it for the weekend for 3 hours, but only after you've done 30 minutes of reading. So all of the apps for games and things don't even appear until you've been online reading for 30 minutes for books that I believe are appropriate for you, based both on your age as a child, but on your reading level as well, so that the book challenges you just the right amount and doesn't sort of create a situation where you try to circumvent it to find a book that's the right content and the right reading level for you. The other thing that I appreciated about this is when I set it up, not having a child around to test it, I handed it to my husband and I said, please try to break this. And so he's in the other room and he's trying to get around the child controls and he can't. And on the parents app on my phone, I'm getting an update on everything that he's looking at and the amount of time that he spent on different apps. And these are all from a curated collection that are age appropriate. They're things which do not encourage inexperienced purchasing. They don't have ads, right? They're designed for the age level. But what I liked about that was I'm getting this information about how he's spending his time, this hypothetical child, so that I could then have a conversation with him later and say, hey, I noticed that today you spent a ton of time on that game and yesterday you didn't spend any time on it at all. Like, do you like the game? What do you like about it? Or, hey, I saw, we had it set for 30 minutes of reading today, but you read for 2 hours. Like, is it a good book? What about it do you like? Do you want to get more books like that? So that parents have the sort of transparency to have those conversations, to have the open door, to create kind of the dialogue that is necessary to make sure that everybody has the information that they need.
I was just, from parental controls is a very kind of parent-centered view. It sounds like this is a top-down thing, but it'd be interesting if a young person is willing to share what their views are in relation to parental control. Or maybe just get one voice, and we haven't heard from you as yet. It'd be interesting to hear whether what your perspective is from that.
Okay, so I grew up. Is this working?
I think it's working.
Oh, there we go. I grew up with screen time and parental controls on my phone. I had an hour a day. And that was, you say that, but it was tough. And I had to negotiate with my parents all the time, try and get more screen time. But then I was able to sneak around them all the time. So I think that also then creates that untrust, like then they don't trust me anymore because I'm finding ways around it. I'm cracking the codes. I'm going on their phone to get rid of it, that kind of stuff. But now, as I'm older, I have set myself like screen time, so then when I see that it's gotten to 3 hours, and I'm like, okay, I should probably slow down. But I think that the whole point of this is probably communication. I think that you should really talk to your parents, talk to maybe teachers as well, and just say like, I find, like your parents will say like, I think your screen time is way too high. And then you as a kid should be like, but I'm also doing this, I'm doing schoolwork, I'm also, it's not only messing around playing games. So I think that you really have to communicate with your parents and to find a balance for what you guys both think is good.
Can I say something? Because I really loved part of that answer.
Okay.
So what I loved was when you said, when you were older and you had a little bit more autonomy, you gave yourself screen limits. And I think that is such a cool part of the answer, because ultimately, I think for a lot of these parental controls, what you're looking for is a space where your child can be safe and can play in sort of a digital playground, but they can, as an earlier speaker said, build skills and learn tools that work for them, so that when they age out of those parental controls and they have the opportunity to set the rules for themselves, they set good ones. And they've already developed tools to figure out what works best for them and what is sort of the safe environment that they want to be in and what are things that are not going to fit for them.
And you know, just to add to that, because it is a very interesting answer, and in a very crooked way, awkward way, we are, you know, the setup of you're only allowed one hour a day on your phone, and you start to become very creative and work your way around that. And if you want to be, are we preparing kids for digital adulthood? Maybe there's the answer. I'm not sure we want that, but
I also think, yeah, if you're gonna put the sweet jar with the lid off in front of the child, who perhaps have not yet developed certain mechanisms in terms of their brain and in terms of self-control, that's a bit scary. Someone said to me the other day, and this is very extreme in terms of banning things, said, well, we ban cigarettes in school and we ban alcohol to under 18-year-olds. And we don't just say to them, okay, well, I'm going to let you have a few sips now, and then I'll let you have a few more sips, and then I'll let you have a few more sips, so that when you're 18, you know how to drink. And I know that that's a controversial and extreme thing to say, but I do understand that sentiment a little bit. It is, they don't yet have all the, let's say, developmental bits in place to be able to make those decisions always for themselves. So yes, I agree, we should teach you how to, one day when you are 18, how to, well, drink responsibly, etc., and make those decisions yourself. But does that mean that we just open the gates before then? I think that that's where we still see ourselves, in any case, as a gatekeeper. And also in terms of what we do at school, in terms of, let's say, my personal beliefs regarding the phones and social media at school, is we say we know we can't control what happens outside of the school gates. We can control what happens for the 6-8 hours that they are in school. And if we can provide a little bit of a calm, safer space where there's less noise in their heads throughout the day, even just for a few hours in the day, then I'm happy to keep on doing that.
Mm-hmm. Tim.
Yeah, just and the second part of the answer was about communication, and I think that is, you know, it's instrumental in making sure that you have that two-way flow of communication, right? It's also parents learning from their kids whether it's video games or whether it's watching adolescents together. I think one example that we've done as Tencent also in Singapore in a easy, accessible way, because you do want it to reach the parents, is set up in a shopping mall a very sort of a booth where the children and parents can play Pokemon Unite together. And they sit down there for 15 minutes and they enjoy it and they talk about it and then they go on shopping, right? And so I think that's also a powerful way to show the power of play, right? And that then generates a conversation, communicate, talk about what should be those limits and what is healthy gameplay and to ensure a safer online experience.
Yeah, and I think that's very important, that parents actually engage with their children. Like, what are you doing? What are the games that you're playing? And to also kind of pull that back to screen time that we were discussing. I think screen time is just a really bad term in itself, because not all screen time is equal. Like, what are you doing online? What does it bring you? Why do you want to continue with it? I think those are very important questions that parents should ask their children, and not just be completely obsessed with the whole idea of screen time, because it's not just that 1 hour. I mean, what are you doing in that 1 hour? What do you want to do more of? What do you want to do less of? I think that's very important for parents to discuss with their children.
Just to come back a bit to remind us that at the beginning of this, you just watched the clip from Adolescence, and I thought when they were going to show the clip from Adolescence, they were going to show the two parents talking in episode 4. I thought that was going to be the thing, which I thought was a very powerful scene. But on reflecting, seeing the scene they showed again, what was really important in that bit was the adult listening to what the young person had to say, and I think that does chime into what we've had at this conference, where on the different panels we've had before, we had kind of youth advisory groups, youth advisory boards, youth advisory committees mentioned by a regulator, mobile operators, like tech platforms having their own, and ChildNet, we also have one. So there is this kind of general recognition that youth voice is really important in this whole discussion. And we had a young person give a keynote speech where they said, it was a 14-year-old that said it, every generation's experience of youth is different, and ours is framed by social media, and brilliantly articulated why we need to be listening to what young people have to say in relation to the technologies. Otherwise, the activities and actions that we're going to do are not necessarily going to hit the points of issue that are relevant for children and young people. And I think there's almost kind of a unanimous agreement that youth voice is really important within this area. And I'm just wondering, well, we've got so far, but what can we do? What's good look like in relation to youth voice and participation in this space of online safety where, like that clip showed, young people have a lot to share in this, not just about the negative, but also about the positive too. I'm interested, that is a question. I will come around to the young people, but we are going to be running out of time soon. So if you've got any short answers, that would be great.
Well, on a positive note, I've seen some really positive things happen. My school take part in Model United Nations, and the Model United Nations Club use Instagram very, very effectively to promote their own conference, which just happened a few days ago, where we had about 16 schools coming to our school for the conference. So they used Instagram. Last year, they used TikTok, and we were a little bit caught unprepared because one of their clips went viral. Within 2 hours, they had 2.5 million views, which shocked us a little bit because, positively, because the content was very positive in this case, and it was really great. On the other hand, also very scary, because if the content had just happened to have, let's say, caught someone in an awkward moment or caught someone in an embarrassing moment, and it had then gone off like that, then the gates are open.
Yeah. So, okay.
Positive and negative.
Positive and negative.
I want to zoom in on something positive that the helpline can afford some help on for parents. Because one of the key things that we do at the helpline is that we assist people in taking harmful content offline. We have a whole team of people working on the helpline who assess the content to see if something really illegal is happening there. And then we can liaise between social media platforms to make sure that content is taken offline, so that sort of the impact that it has is mitigated a little bit. So the idea of permanence on the internet that parents seem to have, we can actually do something about it. And it may be in a beautiful Dutch idiom, it's putting a dent in a piece of butter. it's not completely gone forever, but we can do something about it. And creating that sense of agency, I think is really important for people who've experienced something bad online.
Good. Tim, Joe.
Yeah, quick positive initiative that the video games industry has taken a long time ago, back in 2003, a self-regulatory initiative called PEGI, Pan-European Games Information. So this is it's now almost applicable in 40 countries across Europe, and it age rates a lot of the video games, right, between 3 and up to 18, but it also has content descriptors, so makes it very clear, very easily accessible when there is violence or drugs in a game. I think those little things, or those big things that can really make an impact and make it easier for parents and kids to understand what game they're playing and again, coming back to that point about enjoying the game they play.
And I just add that I think that this is a conversation where best practices are something which is iterative, right? We're going to be constantly receiving feedback from the children, from the different features that get introduced on things. And I think it's important that the conversation is always continuing and growing as the child grows, as the platforms grow, and as what each emoji means changes, so that we don't have this conversation once and say, well, it's done and dusted, we can move on from here. We have to keep having it over and over again.
For the young people, any kind of input about how we capture your voice in this discussion better? Yeah. Got two hands up, and then we are going to be out of time, so we'll...
Kind of related to what Ms. Neethling said, I also run a school, like an Instagram account for one of my school clubs, and I work really closely with the social media manager at our school. And not only does she help me post for that account, but the stuff that she teaches me, like how to post safely and effectively, it's also helping me with my own personal social media use. So I think that's super helpful to me to be able to learn through someone older who also has a lot of experience with that.
It's important to say that the social media manager of the school is in her 20s, and that's very deliberate, because the rest of us, we have no clue.
She's young, so you're saying.
She's young.
Okay. We have one more here.
Yeah, I think the positive point is that it's always the golden middle. It's never some restrictions or extreme parts. You never go left or right, you go in the middle. So you just choose the golden middle of not giving a whole free time, but also not giving a full ban on whatever. You just, as Ms. Neethling say, go zip by zip, and then by 18 you will know how to cope with it.
Very good. So we only have 2 minutes left. So if people got questions prepped for this panel, I see a hand right at the back. David, I see your hand.
Thank you. Well, I'm David Wright from SWG from the UK Safer Internet Centre, and I'll try to make it really brief. Actually, I think I'd like to support Celia and Ravika. I think something you kind of said in response to a comment, Tim, you made. Joe, great example of parental control, simple parental controls. We've heard today about all sorts of different parental controls, around it's TikTok parental controls, or Roblox parental controls, or Fortnite parental controls. It's like a blizzard of parental controls. And I think, Tim, your word about effective, I'm sure they are really effective, but only if they're used. I think Tammy said, which was the elephant in the room. So if you've got Kindle devices, if you've only got Kindle devices, that's great. But if children have also got Apple devices, if you've got a laptop, if you've got an Xbox, if you've got a Switch, you can only manage these in a kind of isolation. And so I would encourage, thinking about exactly about families and the complexity of families. It is too hard, I think, for families. So whilst they're great in isolation, that they are really great in isolation, they're only going to be effective if they're going to be used. We need to make it, I would suggest, much more simple for parents in the round, not focused on particular devices or platforms.
And schools too, please. Because we struggle really too. So yeah, us and parents together.
In terms of the controls?
In terms of navigating the space.
Yeah.
And also the speed with which things are happening. We haven't spoken about AI. That's a topic for another day. But, as a school, I feel constantly like we're definitely just sort of chasing our tail with the next thing happening and not really getting a lot of solid help. So anybody from industry, schools need help.
So if I may just reflect on that comment/question, and absolutely agreed, right? It needs to be effective. There's very little point in having parental controls. Perhaps some kind of hope. The Video Games Europe does a survey every year, and the last one did show that 95% of parents whose kids spend in a game actually very actively monitor their behavior, the spending in the game, right? So there is that commitment of the parent if the kid spends money in the game. And
Tim, we're going to have to wrap up there. We've got that big red number there. Look.
It's turning red now. So no, I just want to say that also the amount of spend is also decreasing of the kid that spends in game. So that might be a glimmer of hope. Parents are involved. Hopefully, at least, and that survey showed.
Brilliant. Can you give your appreciation to this amazing panel? Really appreciate the comments you've had.
And if I may just, an unbelievable, and some compliments to Celia, who have children in their school who, at this age, well done. Thank you.